I'm on a walk right now with my dog. I brought my GoPro on the walk, but the battery died quite soon after I turned it on, which is fine. I had been curious about recording some content through audio and having it in a podcast format. I don't mind it in either format, but when I record with audio format, I think it's a little easier because I can just have my headphones on and use my phone. I don't have to hold the camera up at an awkward angle, which it's not really that big of a deal. It's not really that big of a concern, but it's something, whatever, it's fine. I'll charge my GoPro and I'll use that when I want to use that and not when I want, no, whatever, it's fine. But I don't understand human behavior. And there's a part of me that thinks that as I think that I learn to understand human behavior, I start to not like it more and more. And I don't want to be a person who doesn't like human behavior, but there's a lot of situations in which I recognize that there's a lot of duplicity going on in terms of situations that are played out in a certain way as an attempt to gain, assert, or coerce dominance and power. And I've always interpreted this sort of thing to be manipulative in some degree, but also natural in some degree. I think it's more specific to how it's handled out as to how much I regard it as either. And I guess I didn't realize how normal this was until I went and on Google and typed in some random phrases that regarded to this concept. And I was led into this wormhole because when you Google anything and you arrive on Wikipedia, there's all these hyperlinks and you go from one thing to another, and it becomes this super specific web of whatever interests you had. And it was the sort of thing where I was reading these articles on psychology on Wikipedia. It became really apparent to me how common it is, the behavior that I recognize and don't like when I see it. And I recognize that it is natural to a degree because I have dogs. When you look at dogs, they make power plays on each other constantly. And different dogs make power plays on each other. Some dogs don't make power plays at all. And then other dogs will make a power play, but then show submission as soon as they are pushed. And you could see that element go on in human interactions with regards to dialogue. I think this happens a lot in dialogue in terms of oftentimes you could kind of pull out a subkey that people are talking about. And although I try to be direct in all of my communications, I think there's an element of this that's inherent to our communication because this need for freedom or this desire for freedom is just something that we instinctively have. So whenever there's a threat to our freedom, we kind of become antsy about it. Okay, Poe, no, you're in the street. Okay. And, I'm going to use my dog for an example. So I have one of those really long extendable leashes where it pulls out as she walks away and it recoils back into the device when she's near me. And oftentimes I have to make an effort to get her to not go into the street. And it's the sort of thing where I feel that as I make more exaggerated attempts to restrict her movement into the street, she is more inclined to make movement into the street, which, kind of annoying, because although she doesn't understand that she can be hit by a car, and she's like a small little dog, I recognize that. But I think this is why concepts like reverse psychology come into play, because reverse psychology banks on the notion that humans ultimately have no desire to have their freedom restricted. I offered a very absolute sort of dogmatic phrase. I think there are a lot of situations in which we're willing to surrender or submit our freedom to another, whether it's a specific person, an entity, a corporation, something much more vague and general than that. But I think that it really depends on our motivations and our goals in terms of what situations we are willing to do that and which situations we aren't. I think a really obvious one is when there's romantic interest. Whenever there's romantic interest, people are very willing to submit. Not necessarily, though. The stereotype is that men are willing to be whipped by men. That's the stereotype. But I think it goes both ways, where whenever there's romantic interest, a person is inclined to compromise to a degree in terms of willfully forfeiting a level of their power or a level of their freedom. That isn't the only situation. I think a really obvious situation is government and politics. When you are a citizen of a country, you are inclined to give up a little bit of your freedom. I live in America. I am not allowed to drive any way I want on the street. I can try. But the reason why I willfully submit or give up that level of freedom is because of authority, legitimacy, and coercion. What I'm effectively getting at is, if I were to drive on the street in any which way I wanted to enact the greatest extent of my freedom possible, I would likely and very quickly either get into a car accident with another person, hit another person. Maybe I don't do either of those things, and I'm just like, free soloing the whole time, because like no one's on the road, or maybe I'm just good at dodging them and they're good at dodging me. But then at some point, I'm sure a cop will come, and I'll get a very significant ticket. I don't know if there's jail time for that. I have no idea. But the point that I'm getting at is that we willfully submit our freedom to... Come on, Po. We willfully submit our freedom in different situations because of different sorts of pressure. In the first example, people submit a level of their freedom because they want to make the person like them more. In the second example, people willfully submit their freedom because they don't want to get in trouble. Because obviously you're one person and your government is much more substantial than you are. And so you can't really do anything about it. You're outnumbered. You don't have any legitimate means to drive any way you want on the street. And, come on, Po. And so it's in your best interest to submit to that authority. Let's think of another example. I want another example. Okay, let's cross the street here. Come on. Let's see. I think another example is like a really easy one when people have kids or, okay, dog. I have a dog. I'm going to use that example. When you have a dog and you're training your dog how to sit, you're going to do certain things, like have treats. Having treats is a really good way to get your dog to do what you want it to. And they love treats. Depending on how good your treat is, they may even respond in a much more exaggerated, dramatic, and expedient listener than otherwise. The point is, the dog is so inclined to have the treat, whether it's a bone or some sort of alligator treat or rawhide or whatever it is, that they're willing to submit a level of their power to receive that. And so it's the reward reason, which is why people submit a level of their freedom to another. Another example is punishment. you give away a little bit of your freedom because you think that to keep that freedom, you're going to be punished. That goes back to the car example. I'm trying to think about something else. I want more examples for this. I could come up with more examples, but I feel like there's going to be a longer pause in the recording. I don't know how long of a pause I want in the recording. So I'm going to end it for now. Yeah, bye.